Hi guys, welcome to this course on C programming tutorials for absolute beginners. Now let's know more about C. C is a very powerful functional programming language that is widely used and that has influenced many other languages also. So most of the programming languages that are popular today are either direct descendants of C or heavily influenced by C. So in this course, I will be showing you the basics of C programs. And then we will dive into the details of data types, strings and variables also. And throughout the course, I will emphasize good functional programming practices, and learning C is a great first step if you are a new programmer. And it is a very good way to broaden your knowledge if you are already been programming for a while. So now let's get started with C programming tutorials for absolute beginners. Now let's know what we need to program C. So there are two basic things we need to program C. That is, one is the editor. Editor helps you to write your code. And second thing is the compiler. Compiler is a small tool which converts the program to the machine languages. Because the program or whatever your computer doesn't understand the C program which you write. So the C program is just an interface of what you write. And it is easier to understand programming when your program in C, but your compiler just understands zeros and ones. So this compiler will convert your program which you write in C into the machine languages so that it can execute your program. So these are the two things which we require. Now, in order to get these two things, they can be obtained free in different ways. There are different IDEs. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, which helps you to write your code. And I will show you how to install this IDE, which is free to use, and let's see how to install this IDE first. So open your favorite browser and just search for code blocks. And the first link you will find here is not this. Search only for the code blocks. And the first link you find here is www.codeblocks.org. So this is the website which hosts the program called CodeBlocks, and it is a IDE. You can see that it's an open source, cross-platform, free C++ and Fortran IDE. So C is also included in this. And why I'm recommending this code block to you is because it's a cross-platform. That means you can get this on your Linux, Windows and Mac OS, and it's an open source. So you can get it for free. So now how to download this is you can just click this download button here or the downloads button over here. Now I will click this download button over here, and there are some options which you can download. There is the option to download binary release, download the source release, or retrieve the source code from the subversion SVN. What link we are interested in right now is this one, download the binary release. Just click this link. In here you will find few options. Because I'm going to show these tutorials on Windows, so I'll be installing this Windows 2000/XP/Vistal 7 or 8. So just click this link, and then you will see these three options to install. One is only code blocks, which is the IDE which will help you to write your code, and second link will be providing the compiler also. So just search for the link which has this min.gw in it, which is the center link. So CodeBlocks 13 was the version at that time of making this video. And now let's search for this word min.gv. And min.gv is a compiler which will help you to compile your program. It includes the compiler and the editor both. and we want this version also. So just click this one link, either this or this. Now I will just click on sourceforge.net link, and then it will be downloaded in few seconds. And downloaded will be completed in few minutes because it is because it's not a small file, it is 97 MB file, so it will take some time to download. So just wait for this to download, and once this file is downloaded, I will show you how you can install it. So now this download is complete. So we are going to install this code blocks in a Windows operating system. I will click this executable which I have downloaded, and then installation will start. And it says welcome to setup. So just click next. And you just click I agree. And click next. And this is the location where code blocks will be installed. So just leave it as default and click install. And the installation will not take much time because it is installing really fast. You can see that the code blocks icon over here, which you can click to open your code blocks IDE. And you can see that it's installing really fast. And this code blocks IDE, you can use it for programming for other languages also, like C++ or Fortran, etc. Now if you don't have Windows operating system, you can download this IDE on your Linux or Mac OS also. So it's available for all these three major operating systems. Now it says that the installation is done, and it's asking you whether you want to run code blocks. Yes, I want to run, and I will run the code blocks. And it says something. I will click OK. Here the installation is complete, and I will click next and finish. And you can see here the code blocks is currently not a default application for C and C++. So do you want to make it as default? If you wish, you can make it as default, or you can just leave it. I will just close it for now. I don't want to make it default. So in this way you can install these. So now let's develop a C code, and let's compile and run and test our code by using this code blocks. Now I'm going to show you how to create your first C program and the program structure of this C program. So let's get started. First of all, open your code blocks and then go to File, and to create a new program, you just need to go to New, and there you can go to Project. So go to Project, and in here you can find few options, but the options which we are interested in is the console application. So select this option called console application and click go, and it will be showing you some message, and you can just click next. And now we are going to create a C program. Make sure that this C over here is selected, and then click next. And in here you need to give the name of your project. So for example, I'll be giving my project name as my prog. So this will be the name of the project, and name of the project depends on whatever name or which you want to give to your project. And by browsing this, you can change the directory in which you want to save the program. I will just leave it as default, but you can change it also. But you must know this path so that you can see the source path if you want to see. And then just click next. And this generally shows the basic information of the project, that is going to use the GNU GCC compiler, which we are going to use for the compile application. And it's going to create two versions of your project. One is called the debug and the other is called the release. Now it's not necessary to know all these things because we are just beginners. So let's just go ahead and click finish. And when you click finish, you will not see anything here on this window. But on your left hand side on the project tab, make sure it's the project tab. And you will be able to see your project name, which was given by you. And a folder called source, and inside this folder there is a file called main.c. And once you click on this file main.c, you will be able to see the hello world program here. Now you can press Ctrl and scroll your mouse to make your code font size bigger or smaller. So in order to make it bigger, just press Ctrl and scroll your mouse. So I'm making it a little bit larger so that you can see it. And this is the basic structure of the program, and it is called hello world program. So it is automatically created by the code blocks for us. So we'll go line by line and let's see what are these code means. So the first two lines, which starts from these hash symbol, are called as preprocessor commands. There are other preprocessor commands also, but these are the very most basic preprocessor commands. And a preprocessor commands includes a header file into your project. So whenever you create a C program, there will be already some files which we need to include in your project in order to write a program. And this preprocessor command, which is this hash includes the file name which you give here. These are the most important file which we need to create a simple program. And the first file, which is called as stdio, which stands for the standard input and output. And this file is responsible for taking the inputs or printing the outputs like printf functions. So which I'll be going to describe you in a moment. So this function, and I will also explain about the functions later, but this is the inclusion of this file. Now there is a file called stdlib, which is this file, and this file we need to include main whenever you write a C program or whenever you try to compile and run this program. Whenever you run your program, your compiler will search for the main function in your program. And this is like an entry point to the program. So this main is the part of standard lib.h. So these are called as preprocessor compiler. And now this int main is a function, and it's a very basic function, and it is built-in function, which every program must have this. And by this main, C++ knows that it is the entry point of your program. So every project must have at least one and only one main function. So now let's know what is a function. A function is a piece of code which you can execute. For now, you just need to know about that. A function is a piece of code which you need to execute some codes. And most basic function is main, and the most important function is main. A function has 2 or 3 basic things. One is the return type, which is int, and int stands for integer, and this is int, and int is a data type which stands for integers. And this main is the name of the function, which is by default you have to give in small letters. And this bracket takes an argument, and for now we are not passing any argument, so let's leave it empty. So every program should have this main function, and because we are returning an integer, we need to end our program with return 0. Return 0 is just like a success for your main program. So for now, you just need to know that if return 0 and if you reach till this point, your program has run successfully. And now printf. And this printf is a part of standard io.h file. So there is a function in this file called the printf, and this printf helps us to print a string on the terminal. So this is a printf, and inside this bracket, whatever you write inside this printf in double quotes, and always remember this, that you need to write inside the double quotes over here. So whatever you write inside it, it will be printed on the terminal. Now we are writing hello world, so this will be printed on the terminal. So this \n changes the line, and which I'm going to demonstrate in a moment. So this will not be printed. So this is a special string or a character which will help you change the line to print. Now every line ends with this semicolon. So this semicolon tells that this line of code is ending here, and from the next line we are going to write another line of code. And every function is started with these opening and closing curly braces. So this is the basic structure of a C program. And now once you have understood, you can see every line is starting or ending with a semicolon. And it's not necessary that you need to give this kind of indentation. You can also write a line of code here or like this, and the position is not much important for that. So you can give 2 lines of gap between 2 lines of codes or whatever. But in order to show or make your program more presentable, there is a design of code which is best looking. So in this way, your program looks good. So that's why we are writing it like this. Okay, in order to run your program, you need to compile your program. Earlier, I have showed you that what is compilation, and it helps your programs to convert this program into a machine language which your computer can understand. So this is the code which is readable by human, but it is not understandable by computer. So compiler will help us to convert this code which is human readable to convert it into the machine readable code. So how you can compile your code is, there are three buttons over here in your code blocks, which is build, run, and build and run at the same time. So to build this program, build means compile. Compile and build both are same. Whenever you click this build, it will compile your program. And now there is one tab here, and this tab also has a build, run and build option. So you can here also run and build your program. In order to build your program, you need to always save it first. So always click on the save icon to make sure that your program is saved, and then click this build button. And in this, whenever you click this build button, the output of the compilation will be shown in this build log. And if you don't see any error here, you can see it over here. It shows 0 errors and 0 warnings. This means that a program contains 0 errors and 0 warnings. So compiler also helps us to check whether a program is, or what we have written our program is, correct or not. So once your program is compiled successfully with 0 errors and 0 warnings, you can run your program with this green button. Just click on this button, and now our program is running and it prints hello world. And then it prints something which doesn't interest us, so it's just a throw by a terminal. So you can just leave that. So this is what we are printing, and it's saying that press any key to continue. And whenever you press any key, this terminal will exit. So this means that the program is running successfully. Now, if you want to build and run your program at the same time, you can just click this build and run button. So it will build and run my program at the same time. Now, whenever you do some mistakes in writing your code, your compiler will give you an error. For example, I leave some unknown characters here, and after my printf function, and after the semicolon, which are unknown to the C compiler. Whenever we save the program and compile it, this will give us the compilation error. It is showing expected semicolon before a return. And it is not that we have not given semicolon here, but still it is giving the error. We have added the semicolon, but still unknown to your C program. So once again we'll compile it again, and it will still give us the same error because it says this word is undeclared. So whenever you write a code which is unknown to C, it will give you the error, and this red mark over here shows from where or which line this error is coming from. So in this way you can check whether you have written a correct program or not. You compile a program to check whether you have written something wrong or something which is correct. And to convert your program to machine level language, to run this program, just click this and it will run your program. And this is how a structure of C program looks like, and this is how it works. So we spoke about how to create the first C program, and I also explained this code by line to you. So now I'll be further explaining how to use these inputs and outputs like printf functions and other things in C. So earlier I had told you that printf is used to print any value in the terminal. So whenever you run this code, you will see that hello world, which is inside the printf function brackets, is printed. And this /n just changes to the next line. For example, I want to print hello world 3 times. 1, 2, 3. I will just build and run my program. And you can see here that it has printed 3 times. Hello world in the first line, and hello world in the second line, and the hello world in the third line. So if you want to print this hello world again and again without any line break, for that you can just remove this /n. So I will remove this /n here, and then again I will just run my program, and I can see that hello world is printed 3 times in the same line. So this /n changes the line. For example, if you want to print some number, so how can you do this? So first idea which may come into your mind is just write a number. So for example, printf 32. But let's compile this program first, and it says some warning, and when I run the program it will not run. It will give you some error because this is not the way how you print a number. So in order to print a number, you need to use a special placeholder. For example, I want to print 32 here. Here I need to give a placeholder. So just in your printf function, in the bracket, just give 2 double quotes and a comma, and then give a %sign, and then type D. And then I will explain you what is this %D. So first we'll build and run the program, and it prints 32. Now here %D is called a placeholder, and it literally means that %D is going to hold a place for the integer, and D stands for integer. If you write D over here, it will hold an integer for you. If you want to print a decimal value, then there is a special character F which stands for float. Then you can print the decimal values, for example 32.2, and when I build my program I will get it as 32.20. So for example, you just write here %D, but you want to print 32.2. So let's see what happens now. It doesn't print this number because this is a decimal value, but we have provided the integer placeholder to hold the decimal value, which is not valid. So you always have to remember that you need to keep it in mind that what kind of value that you want to print. So with this placeholder you can add your text also. For example, I want to print the text with this placeholder, that is the number is equal to, and then write your placeholder here. So this placeholder will be replaced by 32 here. So just imagine it's like it will print the number is, and whatever here, it will be replaced by the number or the value you write after this comma. And when I run my program, it will print the number equal to 32. And now in order to print multiple decimal, what you need to do is you just need to give multiple placeholders. For example, I want to print some values separated by a space. You just need to copy and paste it 3 times. and then after a comma just provide other values which you want to print. Because we have written here %d 3 times, so keep this in mind that this space over here, it will print like 32 space 58 space 5. Let's try and run the program. Okay, here we have got that 32, 58 and 5. Now there are different kinds of data you can print. For example, I have shown you how to print the decimal value, 1 decimal value. So I will just copy this and paste this. I want to copy this whole string and paste it over here. Okay, I don't know why it's not copying. Okay. Right click, and if there is copy option, you can also copy it. Copy and right click and paste it. So I will just copy this once again and paste it once again. For example, I want to print decimal values. So it will be replaced by this F, which stands for float. Now in order to print a big decimal value or a large float value, you use a double, and double is LF, large float value. And in order to print a large integer value, you can use LB. So I will just write something here, comment, and this comment means double slash. It means this is a comment, which I will explain you later. Basically, this comment means whatever you write after this comment, it will not be executed by your C program. So this is an integer, and this is a large integer. And once again, this is a double value or float value. And float stands for F. And this will be large float. And large float stands for LF. For example, if you want to print a single character, you use %C. So I will just write char for the character, and single character you will always enclose it with single quotes. So for example, if I want to print C, so then just give %C and then your character or A or whatever. So for example, if you want to print a string means it is a sentence kind of thing. So for that you can use %S, and then you can print hello world here in double quotes over here. So you need to print these inside this double quotes, and this is called string. Okay, so this comment I will show you later that how these comment works. For now, let's just understand that this line after this double slash will not be executed. Now, if you want to print some hexadecimal value, you can print it with this X. And for example, if you want to print the hexadecimal value of 16, it will be printed as hex value. So I will write hex, and now I'll run the program. Keep this in mind that they will be printed in the same line. Why? Because we are not provided a line break over here. So now we will provide a line break here. after every line print, so that they'll be all printed in different lines. And this was a decimal and this was a large decimal. So you can just print a large number. You can search for the large decimal limit and it will have some limit, and then the float value, and then the large decimal float value. For example, this one. The character is okay and the string is okay and the hex is okay. So now we will build the program and run it. And it runs. So first it will print hello world, which is a simple string. And then it prints 32, which is decimal. And then it prints big decimal. Okay, it's not a big decimal, it is a big integer value. And then it prints the float value, that is %f. And then it prints the large float value, which is the big decimal value. And then it prints character A with a %c sign. And then it prints the string, which is %s. And then it prints hexadecimal value of 16, which is 10. So in this way you can print values using printf function. So remember these placeholder values, D for integer and LD for large integer, and F for decimal values and LF for large decimal values, and C for the character and S for the string, and hex for hexadecimal values. So now in order to take the input, for example, you want the user should give some input and then you want to print this. So for example, what you can do is you want the user to enter some value and then it will be printed on the screen. So how you can do this is you can do it with a special function called scanf. So scanf function is generally used to take the inputs from the user. For example, if I want to take the input from the user as a string, I will write %s and then comma, and then I can just give any value here and it will be taken by this scanf function. And if you want to print it, you can print this value also. But this we will see later when we will understand how this variable in C works and how these data types works in C. Just remember that scanf is used to take the input values. So there is another special function which is called puts, which is like this, and it also prints the value to the screen. So for example, if you want to print some value, this is my C program. You can print it like this also by using the print or the puts function, and when I run the program it will run fine. And I will close this and compile and run this, and it prints that this is my C program. And in this way you can input and output different kinds of data using C on terminal. So now let's know about these comments. And as the name suggests, it is used to provide description of your code. And comments are generally not executed by your C program. And for example, If you want to give some description of your program, like what it is doing or what is the purpose of line of code, you use comments. So in order to give comments to your C program, you can use two ways. One way is that you can use multi-line comments, and the multi-line comment means more than one line comment, and the second one is just / and asterisk, and then asterisk and /. And in between, whatever you will write, it will be called as a comment and it will not be executed by your program, or it will not even be compiled. So it is just to describe what your program is doing. For example, I can say that this program is, and then I can go to the second line and I can just write more description that this program is printing hello world. So in this way, you can provide multi-line comments like this. And this comment, which is inside this / asterisk and asterisk / will not be executed or compiled by your C program. So this is just for your reference, or if any other person sees your code. So by seeing this comments, he will be able to understand that what your program is actually doing and what you want to do in your program. So in order to provide this single line comment, for example, this line, what this line is doing is, particularly I can give a comment to this line. So you can just give 2 / and then you can write a comment. So this is printf function. So you can write these kinds of comments in your single line of comments, or you can place it here. So you can place your comment anywhere in your code, but just keep in mind that you need to provide double / or / asterisk and asterisk / asterisk or / and asterisk. In this way, you can use comment in your C programming. So now let's talk about variables, and let's know what are variables and how we can declare variables in C and how we can use them. So the first question which strikes your mind is, what are variables? Variables are nothing but the data holder, or you can save values in the variable. So it is just like you want to save your age in some place, you can store in a variable and then you can extract your age using this variable. So now variable has two different things. One, it's called as data type. For example, int is an integer, and then the name of the variable, for example, age, and then you give a semicolon here, and this is the declaration of variables. Now what this variable means is, we want to declare a variable called age, and it is the name of the variable, and int is the data type. So data types is a type of data variable which is going to store values. So it is going to store integer in our case, then it is initialized by data type called int. Now you can assign some values to this age. For example, age is equal to 21, and then you can print this age by printf function. For example, you can give the age is %d, which holds integer values, and then comma, and then the variable name, which is age. And when you compile and run this program, it will show you the age and whatever the age value is, which is 21 in our case, and you can see this, the age is 21 now. So once again, the variables are used to store some values. Now there are some rules for declaring the variables also. So for example, you want to store the variables using some numbers, that is starting with a number. Then you cannot do this. So these are some rules. I will just enclose them in the comments so that they are not executed. The rules are that the variable's name cannot start with a number. For example, if you want to start your variables with a number, it's invalid. The number must not be there at the initial place. So whenever you compile this program, it will give you an error because your variable name starts with a number. But it can end with a number, or the number can come in between your variable names. So that is totally fine. Because what's the problem here is this age. So I will just comment this now because I have not yet declared the age. So it's totally fine to have numbers between the words, but the variables cannot start with a number. The second rule is your variable's name cannot have spaces. For example, if you want to declare a variable called any age, for example, with a space in between, this will be invalid. So you cannot have spaces in your variable names. And the third rule is you cannot start or use any special character. For example, taller. To initialize a variable name, it is not allowed, or you want to use asterisks between a variable name, it is not allowed. So avoid using special characters in variables. But it is totally fine to use underscore. Because it is an exception which you can use as a special character in between your name. For example, my underscore age is totally fine and it is a valid variable name. So now the fourth rule is always avoid using special function names. For example, main. Main is the function already declared in C. If you want to declare main as a variable, it is still okay, but it will create a conflict in C. Because C will think that this function name and the name which you have declared it as a variable. So it gives you some conflict. And in the warning also, when you compile this program, it gives you, says main is usually used as a function. So it is better to avoid using any special function names as variable names. So these are some rules for variable names. And you can also initialize your variables like this, like 21, it is fine. Whenever you declare your variables at the same time, you can initialize it by this equal to sign. And whenever you build and run, it will run fine. So now there are different types of variable. I will just run this program and I will show you the different types of variable names, which are very basic in C. You can declare integer variable names. For example, you want to declare a decimal point variables. You can do it with data type float. So you can use float to store some floating point values or decimal values. For example, pi. Pi, it has a value as 3.14 something. So it's a decimal value. So you can store these values using a data type called float. Now in order to store a character, you can use char. And char, as you know, you can name it as my underscore char. It is totally fine. And it is equal to any character, for example. And always remember, whenever you want to store a character, you store it in single quotes. So do it like this. And the fourth type is double. It is also a data type. You can say that this is a big pi value which is equal to 3.14 and whatever is the value of pi. It is a very big float value. So these are the four basic data types you can use in C. And there are other types also, but these are the most important basic data type you can use to declare variables in C. And now this is all about variables. Now I'm going to teach you about simple math and math operators in C programming. So basically there are some operators which you can do it in your math in C programming, and these are called as multiplicative and additive operators. And the first operator is this plus symbol, which is used for addition. And the second operator is this minus symbol, which is used for subtraction. And the third is asterisk, which is used for multiplication. And the fourth one is the forward slash, which is used for division. And the last is the modulus operator, which is also called as modulus. So these are called as multiplicative and additive operators. And now let us know how we can use them. For example, let's take two numbers. Int a is equal to 23 and comma b is equal to 45. And you want to add these two numbers. So how can you add these two numbers is, you can just declare another variable called sum, and then you can add these two numbers like sum is equal to a plus b. And the result you can print it in the printf function. So you can just say sum is equal to %d and comma your sum variables, which is this one. You can compile and run this program. Okay, it says an error. Okay, here I have forgot to put semicolon. And now let's save our program, compile and run it again. And it will give me sum of 23 and 45. So it will just print sum is equal to whatever the sum of these two values are. So that is, in our case, it is 68. So now in the same way, if you want to divide or subtract these two numbers, you can do it. So I want to subtract 23 by 45. You can just do a minus b, which will be a minus value. So I will just compile and run my program, and this will not be sum but the subtraction, but I forgot to change the variable name, but the result will be the subtraction of these two numbers, which is 22. So you can just name this, instead of sum you can name it as subtraction. So now in order to get multiplication, you can just change the variable's name as multiplication, and you can use asterisk for multiplication. So a asterisk b will give you the multiplication of these two numbers. Here you can say is the product. Product is equal to this multiplication. And if I compile and run the program, it will give the product of these two numbers. In the similar way, if you want to divide these two numbers, this is the product of these two numbers. And in order to divide two numbers, let's say this is division variable. And in order to divide these two numbers, you can just use forward slash. And let's take two simple numbers. For example, 8 and 2. I will just build and run this program, and it will ideally give us 4 because 8 divided by 2 is 4. So it gives us 4 as expected. But whenever, for example, let's say I have 9 divided by 2. And by this way, this is our integer values. So let's change it to float because 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So that's why we are changing it to float variables. So now compile and run the program. It gives us the value. Let's see what value it gives us. And it gives us 0 because we haven't changed this thing, modulus f. And now compile and run the program. And it gives us 4 as it is not expected because 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. But what this forward slash does is it gives you the whole division. So 9 divided by 2 is, first you will divide 9 by 2 and then you will get 4 and it will leave the point values. So here it left the 0.5 value. By using this, you will always get the multiples. So 4 or whatever you have 11, it will give you 5 and it will not give you the remainder. So in order to get the remainder, like 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. And when you divide 11 by 2, it is divided by 5 and it will give the remainder as 1. So in order to get the remainder, you can use this modulus operator. And let's change it to modulus, and here also modulus, and save it and run the program. And it gives us 1. So this modulus always gives you the remainder and this division will always give you the whole multiple values. So like 1. And when you use this, it will give you 5 because it always gives the remainder. And the remainder shows only the remainder and nothing else. In this way, you can do the simple math in C. There are other operators in C also, which I'll show you in the later sessions. But these are the simple math operators which are called as multiplicative and additive operators in C. And you can do math with these operators. And one more thing is, if you want to know what is the precedence of these operators, if you have seen in your schooling, you had PD, MAS or MDAS something. P stands for parenthesis. So here parenthesis is the main priority than multiplication, division, addition and subtraction. So always follow this rule to do math and you will be good to go. Now let's have a quick recap of what we did. So first we learned how to install code blocks for our systems, and then we created our first program in C which printed hello world for us, and we learned about the preprocessor commands and functions, and we also learned about the comments and how the comment works, and we also learned about the basic variables in C and the rules to declare variables. And finally, we learnt about the multiplicative and additive operators. So I hope that you understood these few topics of C. And let's talk about more and more concepts of C in the next tutorials.